Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks, another episode of Lockdown News Roundup. In this, we have more stuff about the passport, the so-called passport that the government have been pretending they know nothing about. Of course, all of this time, they have been lying to you as they have been planning the passport for a long time. They have been paying companies to produce and manufacture this passport since last year, and probably much longer. We've got Tony Blair coming out talking about the passport. And this morning we've had Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, who literally said on LBC that there may be a possibility that vaccine passports will have to be used to go to the supermarket. So we've gone from 3 weeks to flatten the curve to you have to get a jab or you can't buy food. Strangely enough, the public need to buy food in order to live. It's a basic necessity. If you're going to stop the public from accessing food in order to force them into a jab, then this could end up in a civil war. It says here, Dominic Raab has refused to rule out the use of so-called vaccine passports to allow entry to supermarkets and pubs. Just last week, the UK government appeared to shut down suggestions of a domestic passport system, but now Foreign Secretary Raab has said they're under consideration. Speaking on LBC's Swarbrick, Raab was asked whether vaccine passports would be required to get into pubs and supermarkets, to which he replied, "It is something that hasn't been ruled out. It is under consideration." Asked by Sky News' Sophie Reach if the government was considering the introduction to vaccine passports last week, Zahawi, the vaccine minister, said, "No, we're not. One, we don't know the impact of vaccines on transmission. Two, it would be discriminatory. And I think the right thing to do is to make sure that people come forward to be vaccinated because they want to, rather than it be made in some way mandatory through a passport," he said. So we've got two completely conflicting opinions there. One says, no, it would be discriminatory. It wouldn't be right. We want people to get the vaccines by choice. And then another one saying, well, we might just stop people going to the supermarket if they don't have a vaccine passport. This alone proves that they are all liars. How on earth can you trust any organisation that continually lies to you over and over again? And yet in the UK, the sheep, they still believe these liars. Loads of people have sent me this petition to say no to vaccines. It's do not roll out the vaccine passports. It's a petition on Parliament website, which if it gets enough signatures, it is discussed in Parliament. Now, I've seen these petitions before, and I don't know if they ever actually get anywhere. I mean, the Houses of Parliament, bunch of crooks, as far as I'm concerned, but it already has over 100,000 signatures. And I suppose if it did get a massive amount of people signing it, it would be useful as something to point at and say, look, there's 2 million people who have signed that petition. They don't want the passport. So there is a link to the petition in the comments and description to it if the link works. I've heard that YouTube have been blocking this particular link. So if it doesn't work, you just have to go and find it. And then in other news, we see Prince, the Great Reset Charles. He's just released a message for the children of the UK. He says in a video message that he has been frustrated by not going out. Oh, bless him. Why is that, Charlie? Has the manservant who usually opens your doors, is he not around at the moment? I'm pretty sure Prince, the Great Reset Charles, has been out and about. I mean, he flew to Kuwait back in October and he didn't have to go into quarantine when he came back because he's exempt like all the other special rich people and the royals. They can't spread viruses, don't you know? The more money you have, the less chance you can carry it. It seems to be going by the logic of the establishment. So anyhow, Charles put out this video message setting children a challenge to beat lockdown boredom. His challenge was to go out into nature. That's if, of course, the police don't arrest them. He wants the kids to go out into nature and he wants them to decorate pebbles. Yes, the heir of the throne to England, he wants your children to go out and sit in the dirt and play with some stones. Oh, you peasant child, go outside and sit in the street and play with some of them stones. Prince Charles, who wants a zero carbon world and yet has a massive carbon footprint himself, really believes these actions are fine, whilst lecturing everyone else on how the population is destroying the planet through climate change. Once again, trying to appear like Mr. Nice Guy. But with the Duchy of Cornwall, he owns the freehold of all property on the Isle of Scilly and treats his tenants like they are living in a medieval feudal system. There's a good video on YouTube all about this called The Man Who Shouldn't Be King. Check it out if you're interested. Look, I'm being a bit overly sarcastic here. It's good for children to go out into nature, but I just can't stomach to see this pampered, no-talent, Great Reset promoting individual who takes money from every person in the UK, who comes from a family who have an estimated worth of over 100 billion, telling the kids of the UK to go and play with some stones in the street. It's too much for me. In other news, here's an interesting one about the country Nepal, which has a population of 28 million. Here's the title in The Guardian. It's as if there's no COVID. Nepal defies pandemic amid a broken economy. It says here, cases appear low and sports venues are packed, but protests are on the rise as jobs are lost and personal debt soars. So basically the story is Nepal had a lockdown in March last year, and then a second lockdown in June, and then since July, they just stopped all this lockdown stuff and just went back to normal, opened up everything up. And it's been like that since. It says here, it's as if nothing has happened. The nightclubs are crowded, schools and colleges are open, sports venues are full. It doesn't seem like there is any COVID, says Samir Mani Dixit, a public health specialist. It defies logic, he says. With a weak public health system, families of several generations sharing crowded accommodation and a vast migrant workforce returning from India, the coronavirus looked likely to take a serious toll in Nepal, one of Asia's poorest countries. Instead, the infection rate has fallen steadily from an average of 3,000 daily cases in October to about 300 in January last week. Nepal recorded its first day since August without a COVID-related death. He said, the number of cases is definitely going down. The hospital admission rate is very low. Overall, it seems the virus has been contained at this stage, a former director of the government's Epidemiology and Disease Control Division said. So can one of these Bill Gates funded science experts that we are plagued with in the media, can any of them explain this to me? I'd like to see them try. Apparently the country is going through problems due to the financial fallout from the 2 lockdowns last year, but imagine how bad it would have been if they followed what the UK and Ireland and other European countries have been doing. And imagine what kind of financial catastrophe is coming to these countries that are still in lockdown at the moment. And in other news, oh, look what we've got here. Tony Blair. He has come back out from under his rock, another unelected megalomaniac who wants to tell everyone what to do with their lives, pushing that vaccination passport. This is the same passport that the vaccination minister said the other day they had no intention of bringing.
Pure created a clear filter to show what gets removed from water in only 30 minutes.
The minister said the other day they had no intention of bringing in, which then 2 days later, Bojo, the clown, says they will bring in after a cabinet meeting. Here it is in the Daily Fail on Sunday. Tony Blair, the world needs to agree a form of COVID passport and Britain should lead the way. He says lockdown is the weapon of choice of governments around the world to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Are you sure you don't mean, Tony Blair, you don't mean to say lockdowns are the weapon of choice to force everyone into getting one of these passports? Interesting choice of word, that, weapon, using lockdowns as a weapon. He continues, but let's be clear, the effects of the nation's health and economy are severe. Well, it's all right in Nepal. They just stopped all this lockdown stuff back in July and now they've got virtually zero COVID. Well, zero COVID deaths. It's impossible to stomach Tony Blair. This is the man who was told in court that he should have been prosecuted for war crimes over the Iraq War. He's an affront to humanity. Oh, and let's not forget, he is yet another Bill Gates funded mouthpiece. Here we see Tony Blair Institute for Global Change got $3.5 million from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So just like all those scientists I've mentioned before in other videos, it's just so strange that all of these people who want you to have vaccination passports, who want the lockdown to never end, they all seem to have been substantially funded at one time or another by the Gates Foundation. I wonder if there are any Nepal scientists that are funded by the Gates Foundation. Maybe not, seeing that the lockdowns ended back in July. As always, thanks for listening. Come and subscribe to hugotalks.com. It's the only place where I get to keep the subscribers. If I get deplatformed from YouTube, if BitChute or brand YouTube disappear overnight, then I lose all of the subscribers. But if you subscribe to hugotalks.com, I get to keep the subscribers and I can start again another day. Thanks.
Hugo Talks. Thanks for watching it here. The bit about Nepal was extremely interesting. No lockdown, nothing going on since June or July of last year, and cases are way down. You may know that I've always believed that this thing is a complete fiasco. Complete fiasco, an opportunity for authoritarians to tell us what to do, give us vaccinations we don't want that are experimental and dangerous. Anyway, thank you.